The great crystal dome of Nexus Prime stretched high above the council chamber, its transparent walls showing the swirling colors of space beyond. Inside, representatives from 12 different alien species sat in their specialized seats, each designed for their unique biology. The air hummed with translation devices working overtime to convert dozens of languages into something resembling understanding. Ambassador Jinsu Park walked slowly to the human section, his black diplomatic suit a stark contrast to the colorful robes and natural armor of the alien delegates. Behind him, Captain Minho Lee carried a small briefcase containing Earth's final proposals for a peaceful coexistence. Dr. Soyoung Kim followed closely, her tablet displaying years of research on interspecies cooperation. The humans looked small compared to their alien counterparts. The Vexi towered over everyone with their insect-like bodies and razor-sharp mandibles that clicked constantly. The Lumina floated in glowing energy fields, their bodies shifting between different colors that somehow conveyed meaning. The Collective's representatives sat perfectly still, their shared mind allowing them to communicate without words. Jinsu had attended many diplomatic meetings before, but this one felt different. The usual polite greetings were absent. Alien eyes tracked his movement with predatory focus. Even the younger species, ones that had previously shown friendship toward humanity, now watched with cold distance. Chancellor Thexmore of the Vexi rose from his elevated platform. His mandibles clicked rapidly as he spoke, the translation coming out in mechanical tones. The human question has reached a critical point. Their expansion across the galaxy threatens established order. Their violent nature corrupts younger civilizations who look to them as examples. Jinsu remained seated, knowing that standing now would be seen as aggressive. In the gallery above, Admiral Suk Jin Yong observed everything with the patience of a career military officer. The Admiral's presence was supposed to be ceremonial, but Jinsu could see the tension in his old friend's shoulders. "We have prepared a solution," continued the Vexi Chancellor. "Humanity will be restricted to their home system and 3 colony worlds. All faster-than-light technology must be surrendered to Confederation oversight. Military vessels will be decommissioned under alien supervision." Dr. Soyoung Kim leaned forward slightly. "And if Earth refuses these terms?" A wave of colors rippled through the Lumina representative, Zurthane. The translator rendered the light patterns as words. "Then protective measures will be implemented for galactic stability. Your species lacks the wisdom for self-governance." The words hit Jinsu like physical blows, but he kept his expression neutral. Years of diplomatic training had taught him to hide his emotions, especially when facing creatures who might interpret human expressions as signs of weakness or aggression. Captain Minho Lee opened his briefcase and handed Jinsu a data pad. The screen showed Earth's counterproposals, trade agreements, cultural exchange programs, joint exploration missions. Everything humanity had hoped would prove their value as galactic citizens. Jinsu stood slowly and addressed the chamber. "Earth offers partnership. We bring innovation, determination, and perspectives that could benefit all species. Our history shows we can learn from our mistakes and grow beyond our limitations." The response was immediate and dismissive. Mandibles clicked with what sounded like laughter. Energy fields pulsed with colors that the translator marked as contempt. Even species that had previously traded with humanity now showed only cold rejection. Hours passed. Jinsu presented Earth's achievements: the eradication of poverty, the restoration of damaged ecosystems, the peaceful unification of all human nations. He spoke of humanity's desire to contribute to galactic civilization, to share their unique viewpoint while learning from older, wiser species. The aliens listened with obvious boredom. Some didn't bother to look in his direction. Others whispered among themselves, their conversations conducted in frequencies too high or low for human hearing. As the first day ended, Jinsu realized this was a negotiation. The alien coalition had already decided humanity's fate. These talks were theater, a way to appear reasonable before implementing their predetermined solution. During the evening recess, Jinsu met privately with Admiral Yang in a secure communication booth. The older man's face was grim as he listened to Jinsu's report. "They positioned their fleets already," Yang said quietly. Our intelligence shows over 3,000 ships at strategic points around human space. They're not here to negotiate. They're here to deliver an ultimatum. Jinsu nodded. How many ships do we have ready? Publicly, 200 registered vessels. But Jinsu, Yang's voice dropped to barely a whisper. Protocol 7 has been active for 30 years. If this goes badly, they're going to learn some things about humanity they don't expect. The second day brought more of the same. Alien representatives made speeches about the dangers of human expansion, the need for older species to guide younger ones, the responsibility of the Confederation to maintain order. Jinsu's counterarguments fell on deaf ears. By the third day, Jinsu understood that humanity faced a choice between slavery and extinction. The aliens saw humans as dangerous animals that needed to be caged or put down. All of Earth's achievements, all their hopes for peaceful coexistence, meant nothing to species that had already decided humans were unfit for civilized society. The trap was closing, but Jinsu noticed something the aliens had missed. In their arrogance, they assumed they knew everything about human capabilities. They counted ships and weapons, but they didn't understand human nature. They saw restraint as weakness and diplomacy as surrender. That would be their first mistake, but not their last. The fourth day of talks began with Chancellor Thexmore's mandibles clicking in what Jinsu had learned was their version of satisfaction. The alien leader stood at the center of the chamber, his towering form casting shadows across the human delegation. The Confederation has reached a decision, Thexmore announced, his voice carrying the weight of absolute authority. Humanity has 48 hours to accept our guidance. This is not a negotiation. This is your final chance to avoid consequences. Dr. So-Young Kim gripped her tablet tighter. What kind of consequences? The Lumina representative Zurthane pulsed with deep red colors that hurt to look at directly. The translator converted the light patterns into words that chilled the room. Your entire species will face collective enforcement action. Resistance will be considered an act of war against civilized space. Jinsu felt his heart racing, but kept his voice steady. You're talking about attacking innocent civilians. Families. Children who had done nothing wrong. A sound that might have been laughter came from the collective speaker. Innocent? Your species spreads across the galaxy like a disease. Every world you touch becomes more violent. Every species you contact learns your destructive ways. Captain Minho Lee leaned forward in his chair. We've followed every Confederation law. We've honored every treaty. We've contributed to galactic trade and science. What crime justifies this treatment? Your existence, Thexmore replied simply. Your species lacks the evolutionary maturity for true civilization. You think with emotions instead of logic. You fight instead of submit. You question instead of obey. The chamber fell silent except for the constant humming of translation devices. Jinsu looked around at faces that showed no mercy, no doubt, no willingness to compromise. These beings had decided that humanity was a problem to be solved, not a species to be understood. Admiral Yang watched from the gallery above, his face carved from stone. Jinsu caught his eye for just a moment and saw something there, not fear, but kind of cold determination that reminded him why Yang had never lost a battle in 30 years of service. You have our answer to your terms, Jinsu said, rising slowly from his chair. We reject them completely. The alien representatives stirred with what sounded like surprise. Apparently, they had expected humanity to beg for mercy or accept slavery with gratitude. Zurthane's energy field flared brighter. You reject survival? You choose extinction over wisdom. We choose freedom over chains, Jinsu replied. We choose dignity over slavery. If that means war, then you've chosen war, not us. Dr. So-Young Kim stood beside her ambassador. For 3 years, we've tried to find common ground. We've offered friendship, trade, knowledge sharing. You responded with demands, threats, and ultimatums. This isn't about our supposed violence. It's about your fear of what we represent. Fear. Thexmore's mandibles clicked rapidly. We do not fear primitives who barely learned to leave their home system a century ago. Captain Minho Lee smiled for the first time since arriving at Nexus Prime. Then you really don't understand us at all. The collective speaker tilted its head with mechanical precision. "We understand you perfectly. You are emotional, unpredictable, and dangerous. Your military consists of 200 obsolete vessels. Our combined fleets number over 3,000 ships with technology your species cannot comprehend." Jin-Soo closed his briefcase with careful deliberation. Each movement was precise, controlled, final. "Let me explain something about humans that your intelligence clearly missed. We don't just prepare for the wars we want to fight. We prepare for the wars we hope never to fight." Admiral Yang had begun moving toward the exit, his stride purposeful but unhurried. Other human observers in the gallery were quietly filing out, following protocols that had been rehearsed but never implemented. "Your threats don't frighten us," Jin-Soo continued, his voice carrying to every corner of the chamber. "Your numbers don't intimidate us. Your technology doesn't awe us. Do you know why?" The aliens waited, perhaps curious despite themselves. "Because we've been preparing for this moment since the day we joined the galactic community. Every human who shook your hands in friendship was studying your weaknesses. Every trade agreement taught us about your resources. Every cultural exchange revealed how you think and fight." Zurthane's colors shifted to patterns the translator couldn't interpret. Thexmore's mandibles stopped clicking. Jin-Soo picked up his briefcase and walked toward the chamber's exit. Dr. So-Young Kim and Captain Minho Lee flanked him, their footsteps echoing in the suddenly quiet room. At the doorway, Jin-Soo turned back one last time. "You wanted to see what humanity becomes when we stop pretending to be civilized, when we stop trying to fit into your version of galactic order, when we stop holding back because we're afraid of what you might think of us." His smile was cold and sharp as broken glass. "You're about to get your wish. I hope you're ready for the lesson." As the human delegation left Nexus Prime, encrypted quantum signals raced across space at faster-than-light speeds. On Earth, Admiral Yang, second in command, received a simple message. "Protocol 7 is active. All units to battle stations." The aliens had 48 hours to reconsider their ultimatum. They would need every second to comprehend the magnitude of their mistake. Humanity had tried diplomacy. Now they would try something else entirely. Admiral Yang stood in the command center buried 3 kilometers beneath the Swiss Alps, watching as displays across the vast room came alive with activity. The facility had been built in secret over 30 years, disguised as a geological research station. Now its true purpose was revealed as officers hurried between stations, their voices calm but urgent. "Seoul Defense Matrix is online," reported Commander Hai-Jin Choi from her position at the tactical board. All platforms responding normally. Yang nodded, watching as hundreds of red dots appeared on the main display. What had appeared to be simple asteroid mining stations were now revealing their true nature. Massive gun batteries emerged from fake rock surfaces. Missile pods that had been disguised as or processors swiveled toward predetermined firing positions. "Signal from the outer colonies, sir. Called Captain Timin Young from the communications array. Hidden shipyards are beginning launch sequences." The main screen shifted to show feeds from across human space. On worlds that the aliens thought contained only farmers and miners, huge underground doors were sliding open. Ships began emerging. Not the small cargo vessels and patrol craft listed in public records, but massive warships that dwarfed anything in humanity's official fleet. Dr. Boarehan looked up from her workstation, her face pale but determined. "Biological weapons are ready for deployment, Admiral. Each one specifically designed for our target species." Yang had spent decades preparing for this moment, hoping it would never come. Every trade mission with alien species had included hidden scientists taking samples. Every cultural exchange had been an opportunity to study alien biology. Every diplomatic dinner had been a chance to learn how different species thought and fought. "How many ships do we actually have?" Yang asked, though he already knew the answer. 3,412 combat vessels, Choi replied, plus support craft, automated defense platforms, and mobile weapon systems the aliens don't know exist. The aliens had counted humanity's registered fleet at exactly 200 ships. They had seen what humans wanted them to see, a small, peaceful species with limited military capability. They had never suspected that every asteroid belt in human space contained hidden factories, that every research station was actually a military installation, that every civilian freighter could transform into a warship within hours. Commander Do-hyun Kim's voice crackled over the intercom from the Kepler colony. Stealth ships are in position around Vex High Space. Admiral, we're ready to begin simultaneous strikes on their industrial centers. Yang allowed himself a small smile. The aliens thought they understood human warfare because they had studied Earth's ancient history. They knew about tanks and aircraft, bullets and bombs. They didn't understand that humanity had evolved far beyond such simple concepts. Captain Jung, begin Operation Sledgehammer, Yang ordered. On the main screen, they watched as Captain Subin Park's destroyer approached the first alien task force. The Soul's Fury was one of humanity's older ships, built with technology the aliens would recognize. What they wouldn't recognize was its true purpose. The alien fleet commander probably felt confident as Park's single ship approached his formation of 12 heavy cruisers. The human vessel looked tiny and insignificant compared to the Vex-High warships with their gleaming armor and massive weapon arrays. Park's ship accelerated suddenly, its engines pushing it to 90% of light speed. The aliens had perhaps 3 seconds to realize what was happening before the Soul's Fury struck their flagship, like a relativistic bullet. The explosion could be seen from 3 star systems away. Both ships were instantly converted to expanding clouds of superheated plasma, but the kinetic energy transfer shattered the entire alien formation. 11 remaining ships tumbled helplessly through space, their hulls cracked, their crews dead or dying from massive acceleration injuries. 1 down, Jung reported calmly. Park's crew has been honored. Yang felt the familiar weight of command responsibility. Captain Park and her crew of 87 had just died to prove a point, that humans would sacrifice anything to protect their freedom. The aliens needed to understand they weren't fighting an army, but an entire species willing to die rather than surrender. Similar attacks were happening across the galaxy. Human ships emerged from quantum tunnels that shouldn't have existed, appearing deep inside alien territory, where their presence was impossible. Instead of targeting military installations, they struck the infrastructure that kept alien civilizations functioning. Dr. Han's biological weapons were released into Vex-High crystal gardens, organisms designed specifically to feed on the crystalline matrices that power their entire society. The Lumina's energy networks found themselves infected with quantum viruses that turned their own power sources against them. Reports coming in from all sectors. Choi announced, enemy casualties are exceeding projections. They're completely unprepared for our tactics. Yang wasn't surprised. The aliens fought according to ancient rules of engagement, with honor codes and predictable strategies refined over thousands of years. They announced their attacks, gave their enemies time to surrender, fought in formations that made sense to military historians. Humans fought to win. They used their own ships as weapons, turned civilian infrastructure into military assets, and employed strategies that would be considered insane by any rational military doctrine. Most importantly, they fought as if their entire species depended on victory. Because it did. The galaxy was about to learn that humanity's greatest strength had never been their technology or their numbers. It was their absolute refusal to accept defeat, even when defeat seemed certain. The first reports reached Chancellor Thexmore as he sat in his War Council chamber on the Vex-High homeworld. His mandibles clicked nervously as he read the transmission from Fleet Commander Kextar, whose voice carried panic despite the formal military language. 18 colonial systems have gone dark. Chancellor, we've lost contact with all industrial platforms in the outer sectors. The humans aren't just fighting our military. They're attacking everything that keeps our civilization running. Thexmore's compound eyes focused on the tactical display, showing Vex-High space. Red markers indicated systems under attack or already lost. The pattern made no sense according to traditional military doctrine. The humans were ignoring obvious strategic targets and instead hitting power generation facilities, food production centers, and communication networks. How is this possible? Thexmore demanded. Our intelligence reported only 200 human ships. Where are these forces coming from? The answer came from Captain Subin Park's strike force, which materialized inside the Kepler crystal gardens through what appeared to be an impossible quantum tunnel. The Vexhi had considered the gardens unreachable. They were located in the center of their most heavily defended system, protected by layers of sensor networks and patrol fleets. Park ships emerged like ghosts, their hull plating somehow invisible to Vexhi detection systems. Before the defenders could react, the human vessels released clouds of what looked like harmless organic spores. Within hours, the crystalline matrices that had grown for thousands of years began dissolving, their energy output dropping to zero. Commander Do-Hyun Kim was leading a similar assault on collective space, but his target was even more ambitious. The collective's greatest strength was their shared consciousness, billions of minds linked across dozens of worlds, thinking and acting as one. Kim's ships carried devices that Dr. Borehan had spent 20 years developing. The quantum disruptors activated simultaneously across 7 collective hive worlds. Instead of destroying their targets, the devices did something far worse. They introduced chaos into the shared mental network. Suddenly, billions of minds had thought as one were receiving contradictory signals, conflicting emotions, impossible sensory data. The collective's fleet stopped moving as their crews clutched their heads in agony. Some ships began firing randomly at their own allies as confused commanders received orders that made no sense. The perfect unity that had made the collective so powerful became their weakness when that unity was corrupted. Admiral Ji-won Lee struck at the Lumina's energy networks with weapons that shouldn't have existed. The Lumina were beings of pure energy, sustained by massive power collectors that gather radiation from their home stars. Lee's forces deployed mirror satellites that began reflecting and focusing starlight in ways that overloaded the Lumina's collection systems. The energy beings found themselves literally starving as their power sources were turned against them. Those who tried to absorb the focused radiation burned out like overloaded circuits. The survivors were forced to retreat to emergency shelters, their glorious energy forms reduced to dim flickers. On Nexus Prime, the remaining alien delegates watched in growing horror as reports poured in from across the galaxy. Species that had ruled star systems for millennia were being systematically dismantled by an enemy they had dismissed as primitive. Zurthane's energy field flickered with colors that indicated extreme distress. How did they know? How did they know exactly where to strike each species? The answer was becoming terrifyingly clear. For decades, while the aliens thought they were hosting peaceful human diplomats and traders, those same humans had been studying their hosts with scientific precision. Every biological sample shared in friendship had been analyzed for weaknesses. Every technological demonstration had been recorded and reverse-engineered. Every culture exchange had revealed crucial information about alien psychology and tactics. The galaxy's intelligence networks were reporting impossible facts. Humans possessed weapons specifically designed to target Vexhi crystal biology. They had developed quantum disruptors that only affected collective neural networks. They carried energy weapons tuned to frequencies that were lethal to Lumina but harmless to other species. Dr. Boarehan's research facilities had created biological weapons for each major species, chemical compounds that attacked unique alien physiologies, and psychological warfare techniques based on detailed studies of alien mental processes. Every human scientist who had worked on peaceful research projects had actually been preparing for war. Commander Hai-Jin Choi broadcast a message on all Confederation frequencies as human forces continued their systematic attacks. Her voice was calm and professional, making her words even more chilling. This is what happens when you mistake kindness for weakness. For 30 years, we offered friendship while preparing for your betrayal. We studied you while you ignored us. We learned your secrets while you underestimated our intelligence. The message continued as alien fleets found themselves outmaneuvered by human forces that seemed to appear from nowhere. Every handshake was an opportunity to gather data. Every trade agreement taught us about your resources. Every diplomatic dinner revealed how you think and fight. You trained us to destroy you, and you never even realized it. Chancellor Thexmore finally understood the magnitude of their mistake. The humans hadn't been weak or unprepared. They had been patient, methodical, and terrifyingly thorough in their preparations. While the aliens had been planning humanity's subjugation, humans had been planning the galaxy's education. The lesson was simple but devastating. Never corner a species that evolved to survive against impossible odds, especially when that species has been quietly studying you for 30 years. 6 months after the peace talks collapsed, the same crystal chamber on Nexus Prime hosted another gathering, but now the seats were arranged differently. Ambassador Jinsu Park sat in the Chancellor's elevated chair, looking down at the broken representatives of species that had once considered themselves humanity's superiors. Chancellor Thexmore was missing 2 of his 6 arms, lost when human forces had systematically dismantled Vexhai military installations. His mandibles moved weakly as he spoke through a damaged translator. We request terms for surrender." The word surrender echoed through the chamber with bitter irony. These same beings had demanded humanity's complete submission just months ago. Now they begged for mercy from the species they had tried to destroy. Jinsu looked at each alien representative in turn. Zorthane's energy field was barely visible, reduced to a dim flicker after human attacks on Lumina power sources. The collective speaker sat motionless, its shared consciousness permanently damaged by quantum disruptors. Other species showed similar signs of defeat. Missing limbs, damaged technology, the hollow look of civilizations that had learned too late what they were truly facing. Dr. So-Young Kim stood beside Jinsu's chair, holding a data tablet containing humanity's conditions for peace. Her voice was steady but not cruel as she addressed the assembly. The Terran hegemony offers the following terms. First, all restrictions on human expansion are permanently lifted. Second, reparations will be paid to families of humans killed in unprovoked attacks. Third, alien military forces will withdraw from all disputed systems. A weak chittering sound came from the damaged Vexhai representative. What about our colonies? Our people? Jinsu's expression softened slightly. We're not you. We don't demand the destruction of entire civilizations. Your colonies remain yours. Your people stay free. We want coexistence, not conquest. Captain Minho Lee stepped forward from his position near the chamber entrance. However, certain conditions apply. Any species that threatens human civilians will face immediate military response. Any attempt to form coalitions against humanity will be considered an act of war. Any development of weapons specifically designed to target human biology will result in the complete military occupation of the offending species' territory. The aliens listened with the desperate attention of beings who had learned that their survival depended on understanding every word. They had discovered that humans didn't make empty threats or engage in meaningless posturing. When humans said something, they meant it completely. Admiral Yang entered the chamber, his uniform bearing new decorations that marked him as Supreme Commander of Terran forces. His presence made several alien representatives flinch visibly. They had learned to fear the quiet human who had orchestrated their defeat with such methodical precision. "The galaxy is entering a new age," Yang announced, his voice carrying to every corner of the chamber. "For too long, older species have treated younger ones as children to be guided or threats to be eliminated. This ends now." He gestured to a holographic display, showing the current state of galactic civilization. Human ships patrolled trade routes that had been abandoned during the war. Human medical teams were providing aid to worlds damaged in the fighting. Human engineers were helping to rebuild infrastructure that human weapons had destroyed. "We didn't want this responsibility," Yang continued. "We would prefer to remain junior partners in a galactic community based on mutual respect. You forced us to become something else." Zorthane's energy field pulsed weakly with patterns that translated as desperate curiosity. What do you want from us?" Jinsu leaned forward in his chair. "The same thing we wanted 6 months ago. Recognition that humanity deserves a place in galactic civilization. The right to exist without constantly justifying our existence. The freedom to grow and explore without artificial restrictions imposed by species who fear what we represent." Dr. So-Young Kim activated her tablet, displaying images of human worlds. "Look at what we've accomplished in the century since we reached the stars. We've eliminated poverty on every human world. We've restored damaged ecosystems. We've unified our species without destroying our diversity. We've developed technologies that could benefit everyone." The images showed human cities that blended seamlessly with natural environments, space stations that doubled as research facilities and art galleries ships designed as much for exploration as for war. It was a vision of what the galaxy could become if species worked together instead of fighting for dominance. We offer partnership to any species willing to treat us as equals, Jinsu said. Trade agreements, technology sharing, joint exploration missions. The same things we offered before you decided we were too dangerous to exist. Captain Minho Lee smiled grimly. The difference is that now you understand the cost of refusing our friendship. We've proven that humanity can defend itself against any threat. We've also proven that we prefer building to destroying, creating to conquering. The chamber fell silent as alien representatives considered their options. They could continue to resist and face the overwhelming military might humanity had revealed, or they could accept humanity's offered hand and help build something better than the galaxy had ever known. Chancellor Thexmore's mandibles clicked slowly as he made his decision. The Vexhai accept your terms. We request partnership. One by one, the other species followed. The galaxy had learned that humanity's greatest strength wasn't their weapons or their tactics, but their vision of what civilization could become when guided by hope instead of fear. The age of human dominance had begun, but it would be dominance through inspiration rather than oppression.